And welcome back to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Emilio Donnell and Craig Coben. And, of course, also with us is Max Cohen. In this episode, we are going to focus on Fulham's victory against Stoke City. And we have a lot to talk about in this show. But before I do anything else, Craig, it's been a long time. I'm going to welcome you back to the show. Craig, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Russ. Really glad to be back in the UK and back at the Cottage.
Okay, excellent. Emilio, how you doing, my friend?
Very good. Very good. Great. Good to see Craig back on. It's been a while since we met up about 18 months ago. If not, I think it was beginning of last year. I think it was before COVID struck. It's good to obviously be on the show with Max as always. And yeah, it's like I said last week. It's always good when we dominate, we win comfortably, and we talk. We reflect on all the positives for a change. So it's good to be on tonight.
Okay, excellent. Max, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, great. It's a fantastic four here with us tonight. So honored to be among them. And yeah, another Fulham win, 4 in a row. Clean sheet, 3-0 win. Top of the league. Couldn't be much better end of August.
Okay, excellent. All right. Let me start with you, Max. I'm going to ask you right from just to get your opening thoughts. We do this on the show now. Mad Max or Optimist Max? Get us started here.
Yeah, I have to be optimistic. I think the Marco Silva revolution's continuing. We're playing attacking football. The first goal against Stoke was just the encapsulation of everything I love about Silva ball, which is quick passing, 1 and 2 touch. It's not hoofing it, but it's getting the ball up the pitch quickly and scoring goals. And what I loved about Saturday was the front three of Wilson, Dekadoverdid, and Mitrovic combining fantastically. They all scored. They all essentially assisted their others' goals, and they seem to have the understanding. Wilson slotted right back in after a suspension, and I think they can all score at least 15, 20 goals apiece this season, and that's what's so exciting about this team.
Okay, excellent. Over to you, Emilio, your opening thoughts.
Yeah, dominant victory, dominated from start to finish. Stoke were on a good run of form. We kicked them into touch. And to be honest, at times, the way we were playing was delightful. It was just nice one-touch movement, players looking fit, looking hungry. The camaraderie between them, you can see there was definitely a good camaraderie between the players. That we haven't had that for a couple of seasons now. And you can just see just the general body language. I know victories give you that positive energy, that positive body language, but you can clearly see Mitrovic really signing an extension to his contract. One of the best players on the pitch on Saturday. You can just see the difference here. What a manager, different style, gives the players more belief. And look, suddenly now we're riding high. I know it's early days yet, but we've got nothing to complain about at the moment. I am a happy Amelia. I'm not an angry one, but maybe angry about the penalty miss again. Is that
we can talk about that.
Sort your bloody penalties, Fulham. I don't know who's going to be our natural penalty taker, but other than that, what else have we got to complain about? I thought the keeper is always the one where we've been a little bit apprehensive of the first few games, but this was his best game for the club as well since I've seen him play. So overall, nothing to be complaining about. It's great victory, and we move on to Blackpool away in a couple of weeks.
Okay, let me go back to before I go to Craig because I was a little bit impressed with Stoke City, and I think our quality, as I put in the show name, I think played out in the end. We had more quality than them, but they came to Craven Cottage not to just to get a result, but to win. So I want to give the manager credit. I want to give the players credit. We were just the better side, Emilio, but they took it to us when they had the opportunity. They put a lot of crosses in the box. Yeah. And, again, it's not like there were a ton of nervy moments, but they played with no fear when they came to Craven Cottage.
Yeah, I think when we got that early breakthrough, I think that makes a massive difference. We were able to relax and compose ourselves a lot more. But that's when Stoke came into it. Obviously, they started becoming more offensive as well. As soon as we scored a goal, there was a period of time where there caused a few problems to our defence. I think we coped with it pretty well, but overall there was a few nervy moments, shall we say? But,
yep.
They tried their best, but that's the best we're going to face him week in, week out. Then this division's there for the taking, to be honest. But we will have harder games, and Stoke, probably finish top 8 based on that.
Yep.
They've got a good manager there, good style of football, and they did take the game to us, especially when we went a goal up early on. But overall, the best they can do was to hack some up, doing Stefan Johansson, fouls. To be honest, that's the best they could do. Otherwise, Fulham should have scored 5 or 6, in my opinion.
Okay, excellent. Just want to share a couple of comments. This is from Fulham legend Rob Wilson. We were way better than them. So, Rob, I do agree with you. And I have to share this because Giannis just can't help himself. Bring Ayite back. He just can't. Every show he has to mention Floyd Ayite at least once. It's just what Giannis does. All right, Craig, over to you. Listen, it's got to be good to be back in London. You got a chance to go see Fulham. I'm curious. It's been a while since you've been back at the Cottage. Just your overall thoughts about being back there, and then just your thoughts about the match in general. Do you agree with me that Stoke City came to play and we just showed our quality?
It's the first time I've been back at the Cottage since the Liverpool game in December of last year, when I was one of the lucky 2,000 people allowed into the stadium. It was a dominant performance, both tactically and technically. And if anything, it reminded me a bit of the season from 2000 to 2001 when we were, what was then called Division One, the equivalent of the championship. And Luis Boamorte, who is now one of the assistants to Marco Silva, was on loan to Fulham and a key part of a team that just swept away the division. It really was that dominant of a performance. Did Stoke City come to play? Well, after 5 minutes, they had to play because we scored very quickly. And I thought actually it was a relatively soft goal in the sense, we'll talk about it later, but I thought that Harry Wilson had way too much space to build up the play. And I was a bit surprised that he had that much space. It did force Stoke City to come at us. They tried to press us, but I don't think they were particularly effective in doing so. And overall, our quality prevailed. So, look, it was an exciting game to watch. It was really gratifying. It did feel a little bit like the Tigana era, which maybe Emilio will remember, and some of you.
Well, I'm going to ask Emilio after that if he agrees with that. How about your thoughts, Emilio? Do you agree with Craig on that?
Yeah, we're starting to see evidence of that. I remember from that era 20 years ago where, we had Hales, Saha, Boamorte, Mal Bronk. We had some quality players coming forward, and to your point, Max, those players all went in double figure scoring, and the amount of assists that we created as well. Saha scored over 30 goals, I think it was. Boamorte and Barry Hales were also in double figures, so that team were lethal and dominate that division. We didn't lose until I think it was the end of October, wasn't
it? We lost to Preston North End, I think was the first loss.
End of October, wasn't it? I think I remember. So again, you sense a similar type of ethic here. Good defensive players. Defensively look reassured, but the way the team is playing, I said at the beginning of the season, I think if we could win 4-3, 3-2, I'm okay with that. But we're keeping clean sheets now, and we're scoring goals. It's looking pretty formidable, albeit it's only 5 games in. So let's just take it one step at a time. I know, Gordon, if you're watching, you know what I'm like. I'm going to tend to be quite more pragmatic, and I'm not going to get carried away. But overall, we've got nothing to complain about. This team is dominant. But let's worry about Blackpool in 2 weeks' time. That's the next game.
The other observation I would make is that our football is a lot less predictable than it has been in the last couple of seasons. We were a short passing team, often very conservative in the way we kept possession. And under Marco Silva now, we're much less predictable. We'll play the long ball, play the short ball, we'll play triangles. We mix it up a lot more. And I do think that Stoke City struggled to cope with the variety of our play.
Okay, excellent stuff. All right. I'm just going to share this comment because, again, I just have a little scratch I have to itch. I've actually tweeted about this, and Benjamin Bird actually commented on this. Again, this has nothing to do with the match. I just want to mention this because there's been some talk about AEW coming to Craven Cottage. And again, this is going off topic, and then we'll focus on the match, trust me. And Benjamin Burns said, Fulham flying high, and Tony Khan talked about wrestling at the Cottage. Why can't he enjoy the moment? And I think that he can enjoy the moment, but he obviously, AEW is something that's very important to him. I just want to mention this real quick, guys. I want to get your thoughts. Here in America, I've seen this happen too many times. I don't want to see AEW come to Craven Cottage because I don't want it to ruin the pitch. I've seen it happen here several times. And I know it's just an off-topic discussion, but I saw the comment. Emilio, and again, I've actually tweeted out, I would rather see Tony have AEW go to QPR or go to Brentford and ruin their pitches. Go ahead and do that. What are your thoughts about that? And again, I just want to talk about this briefly.
Yeah, at the end of the day, look, he's got a successful business in America. The wrestling is doing well, and then clearly he probably obviously wants to jump at the bandwagon if Fulham are doing well. But let's also give him credit of some of the acquisitions we've made.
No, I agree.
He's got where's the praise for Tony Khan and the board for choosing Marco Silva and making some discreet signings this summer. With only several weeks' notice, it was being vilified, taking too long to replace Scott Parker or to deal with the Scott Parker. And now, look, 2 months on, look where we are, flying high in the league, unbeaten. I don't see much praise towards Tony Khan on the board there. So I'm cutting him a bit of slack here, to be honest. But at the end of the day, he's got a successful product. He's going to want to use Craven Cottage, good location, good ground. Don't be surprised if he'll achieve his goal here. I don't be surprised wrestling will take place at Craven Cottage. He'll do his utmost to protect the pitch. Let's be clear.
I hope so.
He's not going to impact Fulham's chances of getting down this division. So he will take every measure possible to protect that pitch. So if he wants to take wrestling to Fulham and enjoy his moment, he's enjoying his moment clearly with Fulham, and he should get some praise for bringing in Silver and some discreet signings this summer.
Listen, I agree with that, and it's almost taboo to say something positive about Tony, but we're going to be fair here, and we have to be fair. And I'll say it again, anyone that doesn't know this, I actually said that I wanted Tony to step aside and have someone else be director of football because of what happened last season. I thought it was all building up to that. But on the flip side, I'm looking at the evidence of the players that have been brought in, the players that have been kept so far. We still have the transfer window and the results that we've seen so far. And he does deserve credit for what has been going on so far this season. If we're going to be fair, we can criticize, but we also have to be fair on that end too. Craig, over to you. And again, like I said, a little side topic. I don't want to talk too much about the wrestling at Craven Cottage, but I happened to see it today, and I thought, I'm just going to mention that. But also, I think it's fair to talk about the positives and negatives for Tony. He deserved all the criticism that he got, but let's now be fair on the other side. This team he's built so far, and he does have a part of it, and Marco Silva does as well, Luis Boamorte, the board, everyone has a part of it, but you got to give credit where credit's due right now for the team that's been built, Craig.
Look, I'm not groundskeeper Willie, so I can't judge how much damage professional wrestling would do to the Craven Cottage grass. And Russ, you and I grew up at a time when Bruno Sammartino was world champion of professional wrestling.
I remember it. Yep.
And so I haven't really followed the latest since then. I think there was Chief Jay Strongbow.
Oh, wow, well. You're going way back. Okay.
Calhoun. So I'm dating myself. Look, I do think there is a little bit of an issue that, the seriousness with which the club is run. I sometimes it gives, I think sometimes Tony Khan gives an impression of frivolity, the way he interacts with fans on social media, the way in which he has other pursuits. We have had, now I don't know whether we can lay at his door the 2 relegations that we've experienced as he is during his tenure as director of football, but it does seem to be at times a lack of professionalism in that seat, and that remains the case. I don't know how much say he has had in any signing, or whether he is just the front man and there are other people behind the scenes who have been doing it, both the good signings and the bad signings. We don't have that information.
Right.
But I do think, I think probably it was one of the frustrations that Parker and probably some of the players had last season, was that a little bit of the lack of decorum and the lack of professionalism. I don't want to begrudge Tony Khan and his AEW venture, whether it really belongs at Craven Cottage, is beside the point.
Okay. And I'm one, Max, over to you, and again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this. As we talk about this subject, and Tony's name comes up, and again, it's a polarizing topic whenever you bring up Tony. And I've been critical of him, and I'm glad that Amelia mentioned, we have to be fair on both sides. But as Craig said, we truly don't know who's responsible positively and negatively for the signings. He is the director of football, so ultimately you could say his name's on it, but there are other people involved as well. And, the reason why I brought this up is because of, I saw what happened here at Fenway Park during some concerts, and it ruined the field at Fenway Park, and I did not want to see that happen at Craven Cottage. That's what got me thinking about this. But, something else that Craig said, when it comes to Tony, and I'll say it up for the 100th time, stop tweeting, even positively. Just get off Twitter. That's just my thing. You know how I feel about that. Anyways, I want to get your thoughts on all this. Then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I think what's been said is pretty accurate. There seems to have been some lessons learned this summer. Harry Wilson, I think I pointed that transfer as the perfect transfer for a team who wants to stay in the Premier League once they get there. It's a permanent transfer of a top quality player. And that's exactly what we needed. The extension of Mitrovic.
Yep.
I think Tony Khan, it's fair to say, has a good personal connection with Mitro, and that probably played a large part. The appointment of Marco Silva, I think, is more to do with Shahid Khan, because I think that's more of his purview as appointing managers, but I think Tony probably played a role too. It hasn't been a terrible summer in terms of the actual business he's done.
Right.
And the results on the pitch are fantastic. So, of course, we're going to have less negative things to say. I actually hadn't been following the comments about the AEW on the pitch. I hope it doesn't happen, but maybe, what Craig referred to, like the unprofessionalism of the position. That's just points. Even if it was in jest, the fact that fans are being concerned about it shows just a lack of decorum, lack of common sense. But, I've been here criticizing Tony Khan. I don't have much to say in criticism right now. I'm pleased with how it's going. And he's
because
tweeting
you call it as you see it, Max. That's what we all do here. Yeah. We're fair. I think we're all fair here. That when there's praise to be done, but again, like I've already seen comments. I think we have to give Silva a lot of credit too. But again, who really knows who ultimately is making that decision? Is it a group decision? All we know is that Harry Wilson coming and the players that are here. There are a lot of people involved that have a say in it and that are involved in it. So anyways, any final thoughts before we move on from that, Max?
Yeah, I think we're still seeing some of the failures of past transfer windows haunting us. We still have Anguissa on the books, and we're going to sell him, it looks like, for around, 20 million pounds in that region. We're going to lose that amount of money on him. We're not going to recoup any of that 35 million we spent on him. We have Seri, who again was supposed to be a great player for us in the Premier League, only really featuring as a above average championship player. We still have Knockout on the books. We sold Kamara, I think, for a loss. Cavallera, he's been playing better, but again, we spent, in the region of 10 to 15 million pounds on him. Still some remnants of the kind of failed transfer policies in the squad. So just because this summer has been good doesn't mean that the past failures are suddenly wipe clear.
Okay, excellent. All right. Craig, over to you. And I've done this on several shows with you. Turning point of the match. Where do you see this match turn? And again, there could be several places, but where do you see where Fulham really got hold of this match? Was it the first goal? Was it the second goal at the beginning of the second half where they really turned the screws on? Or ultimately, was it that third goal? Or was it somewhere in between? Where do you see the turning point of the match for you?
I think it was the first goal. And almost after Fulham scored the first goal, it felt to me that the outcome was in serious doubt, even though it took some time for Fulham to score the second goal. It was scored fairly easily. I think Robinson picks out Wilson, who links up with Decordova-Reid, crosses it to Mitrovic, who had a lot of space for a beautiful touch back to Wilson to score the goal. It was actually a relatively soft and easy goal. It looked great, but the players had quite a lot of space. And at that juncture, Stoke then had to come out and play. I mean, they had set themselves up in a 3-5-2 Stoke, probably to shut down Fulham. And, all of a sudden they would now have to come out and play. And that left a lot of space open for Fulham for the rest of the match. That, for me, was the turning point. Okay.
How about you, Max? Do you agree with Craig, or do you point somewhere else in the match?
No, it has to be 5 minutes in. We haven't been behind all season. It's a remarkable stat.
Yeah.
And I think we've only been, conceded the goal in the Borough match when it was level. We haven't faced any real opposition, which is remarkable. And that goes to show it's the early goals and the early pressure we're putting on teams, which is our success. I tweeted this in the match. I think we scored 4 goals within the first 10 minutes across this season. And that's kind of unthinkable to remember where we were under Parker, where it would often come late and the first half would almost be wasted, just kind of feeling out the other team, getting to grips with the match. Whereas under Silva, we're starting the front foot and getting those early goals. And once we go ahead, there's no looking back. So It was that Wilson goal, which I think sealed it, because that doesn't look like teams are going to get back in the match against us.
Okay, excellent. How about you, Emilio? Do you agree with the guys, or do you point to something else? This is very early on in the match. It set the tone.
Yeah, if anything, it's the turning point of the match is when the referee blew the whistle to start the game, because we were literally on the front foot straight from the off. To be honest, it was only a matter of time before we scored that goal. Robinson had a lot of space. He's getting better and better game after game by game. We just thought that Mitrovic hungry in the thick of it. All the players attacking in numbers. For me, as soon as the referee blew the whistle to start the game, that was it. Fulham were on the front foot. It was only going to be a matter of time before we scored an early goal. So clearly getting that first goal, set the nerve, ease the nerves. I think there's always a little bit of apprehension. I was messaging a few people at half time thinking, well, so much dominance, yet you're only 1 goal ahead. Anything could happen. So second half, I was a little bit anxious going to that second half. We didn't want to repeat of Middlesbrough again. These guys coming in and nicking a point, having done very little in the game. And, getting that second goal, I'd probably say more that's either the whistle being blown at the beginning of the game was a turning point, or alternatively it's that second goal. That just that reassured us. And then, to be honest, the floodgates could have opened and we should have scored more than the 3 that we did. But overall, it's either the second goal or the whistle being blown right at the front at the start of the game. Wow.
I like that, Emilio. That's very good. Okay, guys, let's now talk about something that I actually watched after the match ends on the live stream. Sean Davis, Gentleman Jim, and Jamie were having an interview with Harry Wilson, which was great. But Sean Davis said something very interesting that now I want to focus on, because it actually gets backed up by comments from the Fulham manager, Marco Silva. Because we always focus on the play with the ball. Well, how about the play without the ball? So Sean Davis stated that Fabio Carvalho, even though I spelled Carvalho wrong, there's a good Goldman for you, took Joel Allen out of the match. So I just want to start there, because now I want to just share these comments. These are quotes from Marco Silva. And then, Craig, I'm going to go to you because I want to talk to you specifically about your thoughts about these comments in general, because they talk about Stoke, but they also talk about Fabio. These are from our manager, Marco Silva. Quote, I said to you before the match, we will play against a very good side with very good ideas, but a team working hard like we did, with a good organization like we had, can block their game. They are a good side with good players, and they can create the spaces in the opposition if you're not in a good shape and if you don't work hard without the ball, and we did that. A good example was the work that Fabio did today without the ball. He did fantastic work, and I have to give congratulations to all of them, unquote. Okay, Craig, that now goes to talking about Fabio and basically in general talking about Fulham's play without the ball. I want to get your thoughts about what Sean Davis said, and then, of course, what the manager said. And what did you see?
Look, Fulham created a lot of space for themselves, and you create space by constant movement, including movement away from the ball. We talked about the first goal in the space that Harry Wilson had to pick up the pass from Robinson, and he picked up the pass precisely where you would have expected Joe Allen or Klukas, number 7, to be covering, and he had acres of space, which means that both players were drawn out of position. I think one thing we saw throughout the game were attacks down the left side, stretching out the right center back, Ostegard, for Stoke City, as well as the right winger, Smith. They were, every time Fulham had the ball, they would look to attack that area, which is something you try to do when someone's playing a 3 in the back, or 3-5-2, is you try to stretch them. And Fulham were very effective in doing that and creating space. And over again, that movement meant that, we had ample opportunities throughout the match.
Okay, excellent. Over to you, Emilio. What are your thoughts about the comments that I shared, what Sean Davis said, and then, of course, what Craig just shared there?
No, it's true. I agree with everything that Craig said. It didn't quite hit me until I saw the comments about Fabio as well, because ultimately we always judge him on his offensive performances.
That's why I wanted to bring this up.
Admittedly, in the first half, I was talking to some of the colleagues around me saying we haven't seen much of him offensively, but you don't psychologically think of Fabio playing that more defensive type role. And again, he probably, looking back at some of the match and replay, I looked at that, analysed that, and clearly he did take Joe Allen out of the game. So it wasn't clear by watching again. So when we're attacking in numbers, we're always looking at how delightful we are coming forward and the nice movement that we have. We don't necessarily give the players credit for all the hard work they do defensively and taking out some of their players. So yeah, it's a great observation, and it wasn't obvious to me on the pitch, as a fan watching the game on Saturday. But again, Fabio had a good game. And one thing I also want to call out is he was disappointed when he got substituted. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Craig. His body language was quite down. He didn't applaud the fans. I thought, okay, so he seemed disappointed to be substituted. Again, he's a young lad, hungry. So he wants to play 90 minutes. He wants to play, be part of the final whistle and celebrate with the players on the pitch. But clearly, he looked a little bit disappointed when he got substituted. That was my reaction when I saw him coming off the pitch, head down, and not applauding the fans.
Correct. Did you notice that as well?
I don't know if we should be worried about that. I don't know what his contractual situation is, but just an observation I saw when he came off the pitch. He wasn't. We were 2-0 up. I think we were 2-0 or even 3-0 up. Yet I didn't see joy there in his body language. It was more disgruntled, and maybe that's because he wanted to play the whole 90 minutes. But hopefully it's something more than that.
Craig, your thoughts?
I didn't see it. Bear in mind when the players are substituted, they're walking towards an empty stand. Right, it's the Riverside stand, which is under construction, and so you don't have the natural effect of clapping to the fans because you don't have the fans near you. So I didn't notice it.
Okay, over to you, Max. Your thoughts on all of this, because again, it's easy for us to focus on players going forward and all the work that they do to create the opportunities, but it's also what they do without the ball that's important. And I just found this fascinating when I was watching the end and to hear this commentary about Fabio, because during the match, I don't know if you heard Gentleman Jim saying that, again, I'll paraphrase it a little bit, that he thought he was a little quiet, but that was going forward. But there maybe because there was so much concentration on the other part of his job on Saturday. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's credit to Silva for recognizing that Carvalho has a tactical aptitude to not only be a creative player going forward, but to help out.
Exactly.
So I honestly didn't notice much of him in terms of defensive standpoint, but when you bring up the fact that Joe Allen,
how often did you see Joe Allen in this match?
I didn't even know he's playing. Of course, he shaved his beard and his long hair, so he looked a bit different, but he was anonymous. Same really goes for Klukas.
Yes.
The most effective players for Stoke were the wing backs, Tommy Smith.
And one of the center backs.
Yeah. So I think that really says it all about how well we played. But I do think it has to say about the quality of the championship. Stoke were level with us on 10 points at the start of the match. One of the best teams in the division up to when we played them.
Right.
And yeah, they're all right, but we're just head and shoulders above them in terms of how we controlled the match, the quality of our players. This championship feels different than past campaigns we've been in. When at the stage of the season, of course, we weren't top of the league, and we were having a really hard time of it. But it almost seems, I don't want to say a weaker division this year because I don't want to tempt fate, but you don't really have the big names. You have West Brom in there, and you have, Bournemouth might be all right. I don't see a lot of teams who can challenge us for automatic promotion. In the past, we've had the likes of Leeds who have been head and shoulders above us. We were championship when Burnley were really dominant. Yep. I don't see an equivalent team other than maybe West Brom this year.
Okay.
Now, look, sorry, just as Russ, I've seen a comment from Rick Kay. He did a great interception, nearly scored from a solo run. Yeah, that was one good offensive run. I don't know if you also saw when he tried. I don't know if he tried to lob the keeper in the second half. Did you see that, Craig?
Yeah.
It was a bit ambitious there, but give him his dues. I think we were 2-0 up at the time, but that's the confidence of a young lad. Trying to from almost the halfway line, trying to lob the keeper.
Yeah, and then Mitrovic was quite annoyed when Carvalho didn't pass him at the end of that long run, which is funny. But they all seem to having a really good kind of banter amongst them. I saw after one of the goals, Carvalho, when Mitrovic missed and Deco never tapped in, Carvalho was giving him stick for not scoring and saying, I'm still a top scorer or whatever.
Okay, great stuff. Great stuff, guys. All right, let's start before the match began, an hour before. Max, I'll give you the honors. Starting 11, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so Wilson came in, which I thought was a good call. And then you also had Decadova Reed play in his preferred winger position. And of course, we haven't even mentioned Dennis Adoy.
Yeah.
No.
Played the 90 minutes, which is great to see him back out there.
Denis Adoy.
Yeah, Denis Adoy. A real servant of the club. So it's a really good feel-good factor. And then, of course, Ream started after that really nasty fall against Hull. Thankfully, didn't look like he missed a trick at all. So good news all around.
Totally agree. Craig, over to you. I always like you saying Denis Adoy. So I'm sure you have some thoughts on the starting 11.
Look, it was, a little bit. I think the key issue is in the right back because we have injuries there, and so we did have to start Denis Adoy or Dennis Adoy, as you say, and he actually had quite a good game. It was interesting that our midfield would be anchored, by Onoma and Seri, I thought that was quite a striking combination, but it appeared to work actually fairly well. And I actually think they both had very, very solid games. And that is one of the reasons why up front they were able to create so much and combine so well, is because actually the two midfielders protecting the back four were so solid. No, I didn't really have any. It didn't strike me as hugely surprising the first 11. It was forced a little bit by injuries, but other than that, I think it was more or less what I had expected.
Okay, we talked about this on a prior show, but I'll just go to you before I go to Emilio. The emergence of Seri, has this surprised you? And how much do we give credit to Seri, and how much do we give credit to Silva, to Morte, to the staff, to getting the most out of this player? Craig.
I think Seri is a Premiership player. He's a Ligue 1 player, and he's now playing in the Championship, and so he looks a lot better. And I do think that the difference in quality makes a big difference in the way in which his performances are perceived. He was a good player for us in our first season in the Premiership, but sometimes he was outmatched, especially, most famously when he gave the ball away in the early minutes of the match, the away match at Manchester City. And it showed a certain naivety.
It went down from there.
The quickness of the players that Manchester City have. He's not playing at that level when he's playing against Stoke City in the Championship.
Okay, very good. All right. Over to you, Emilio. Thoughts on the starting 11?
Yeah, no surprises. I'm not surprised to see Wilson start in place of Cabana. I think that was inevitable. I'm surprised to see Dennis start, but clearly, we know how versatile he is, and he did have a cracking game, and it's great to see him back. His energy, he brings a lot of positive energy to the club. But his final ball at times maybe lets him down, but clearly you can't fault his commitment, his energy, his focus. It's just great to have him back on the pitch. And you saw some of the photographs I sent you, Russ, as well. It's just nice to see that sort of bit of it brings a lot of entertainment to the club, and he's been a good servant for this club, and he has played in multiple positions. So I was glad to see him play, and the fact that he had a very good game, pleases me. So I'm overall not massively surprised with that starting level. But I was glad, Max's point, glad to see Tim Ream come back from injury, and even Carvalho. We questioned Carvalho's injury from the weekend before last. Clearly, that didn't impact him either. So
no,
Tete not being around for at least 6 to 8 weeks, we believe it's. I think we've got enough, but that's not the most dangerous position. I think there's other positions I'd be more concerned about if we had an injury. I think do we need to go and get a replacement of Tete? I'm not sure we do, to be honest. I think I'd rather invest in other areas of the pitch if we need to, rather than in that fullback position.
Okay, excellent. All right. Coming up next, we're going to break down both halves and we're going to analyze them, and then we're going to end with man of the match. Okay, Craig, I'm going to start with you. Let's start from the beginning stages. You've already said that this is your turning point of the match, so let's talk about the goal in the 5th minute from Harry Wilson.
Sure. It happened so quickly. Robinson passed it to Wilson, who finds himself between the lines. Wilson, and immediately, again, they always attack that left side of Stoke, and he feeds Decadova Reed, who was able to get behind the Stoke City defensive line and able to put in a cross for Mitrovic, who put on a lovely little touch for Wilson to finish. The goal looked beautiful. I do think it was a little bit of a soft goal. I think Stoke probably should have been a lot closer to the Fulham players, but it definitely set the tone and would have forced, I think more importantly, it forced Stoke to have to play pretty aggressively in order to claw back the disadvantage.
Okay, excellent. All right. Over to you, Emilio. I'm just going to have you just give your overall analysis of the first half, and I'll do the same with Max. And we'll just talk about it. Listen, Fulham kept creating opportunities in the 17th minute. You have an opportunity from Bobby Decordova-Reid. 20th minute, a shot by Seri. And then you have the opportunity where Fabio steals the ball, and the 32nd minute takes a shot. And then you have an opportunity, 39th minute, from Mitro, and then you have Ream barely missing an opportunity off of that. And then you have a shot by Mitro in the 44th minute, and then right after that, you have Tosin's header that's saved. So they were creating opportunities, but they were not building on the lead. So just give me your overall analysis of the first half, and then I'll go to Max.
Yeah, dominant. Should have been more than a goal up. I think Stoke keeper deserves some credit. We were calling out amongst ourselves the amount of good goalkeepers that Stoke have produced over the years. I think Peter Shilton was a Stoke keeper at one point. Gordon Banks, Butland, their keeper. I think that save from Tosin.
My friend Asmir Begovic.
Begovic as well. Tosin, the save from Tosin was top class save.
Yep.
Again from Seri, looking at Seri when he hugged the ball, you knew he only had one thing on his mind, and I was willing for that ball to go in the bottom corner, but it was going in. That ball was going in the back of the net, and it's just Seri having the confidence to take that ball on and go very direct, and it was going in the bottom corner. So overall, we should have been more than a goal up. I was concerned going in at half time with all that dominance and all those opportunities. Maybe we'll get a sucker punch in the second half. Darlene Taylor was messaging off half time, and he was saying the same thing there. It said, "Don't worry, we will score 2 or 3 goals in the second half." And I said, "Well, let me see them. Let me see first the goals." But the nervousness is, we've got to, those easy chances, so to speak. I think Tim Ream should have done better.
Yep.
I think was it Dennis Adoy who missed early on. There's another chance early on. I think it was Dennis who missed, and what seemed to be a reasonable easy chance, or something you need to be, get the ball on target, but. With all that dominance, we didn't deserve to only be 1 goal up. So Stoke were lucky going in at half time, still in the game.
Okay. Max, do you agree with Emilio on that? Because, I just read, a decent amount of opportunities there. And I'm going to say this, in years past, I would have thought that Fulham would have, really gotten hurt in the second half, that it led them to potentially it coming back to bite them. It didn't in this opportunity. How are you feeling going into halftime, and just overall your analysis do you agree with Emilio that we're dominant, but we should have been up by more?
Yeah, I think that was the tail of this match. 3-0, it could have easily been 5 or 6, considering Wilson hitting the post.
Emilio messaged that exact sentiment to me.
And we just did not look like we were giving up at all at the end of the first half. It wasn't as if the tide had switched and Stoke had gone back into it. It was just kind of wave after wave of Fulham attack, which is refreshing to see. So I wasn't really bothered at all, considering how dominant we were. Okay, excellent. All right, so Fulham going in the half up 1-0, and in the second half, it doesn't take too long. We're talking the 54th minute. Craig, I'm going to go to you. I don't know if you got a good view of the goal from Bobby Decordova-Reid. This is obviously a follow-up from a Mitro opportunity, but it's more than that. It's the build-up play. Thoughts on the second goal, which really put Fulham in command?
Well, it was at the opposite end of the pitch, because unusually I was sitting in the Putney, and I'm no longer have my season ticket because I'm living in Hong Kong. So I had to go with a friend who sits, unfortunately, in the Putney end, where I'm not always so familiar. But what looked to me again was that Stoke were a bit out of shape, out of their proper shape, because they were trying to press forward. There was a long ball, I think by Noma, I'm not sure, to Decordova-Reid, who then cut inside and gave it and fed Mitrovic, whose shot was saved, and Decordova-Reid scored on the rebound. Again, we were exploiting that left side, that sort of area where we had identified clearly that Stoke were weak on was our left and their right side. So their right center back and their right winger, putting pressure on them, overloading that side of the pitch, and it resulted again in a goal.
Okay, excellent. All right. Over to you, Emilio. Let's talk about the third goal. And again, Mitro scores, but this is a tap in. This is more to do with Bobby Decordova-Reid and the situation with Harry Wilson. At the time, I thought Harry Wilson injured himself. In fact, you got a good picture of this. Yeah. And then it ended up being a tap in. He did get up. Thankfully, he did soldier on after that. But nervy moments with him down on the pitch. Yeah. I'm curious your view on that, because Mitro scores, and and again, I'm watching and listening to this, and I'm thinking, did we lose Harry Wilson? We didn't, thankfully. But thoughts on the goal, because this, it was a tap in, but there's a lot more to it than Mitro just scoring.
Exactly, and I think let's be talking about Mitro. He was involved in all three goals. That's what we haven't said, that layoff for Wilson did get a lot of time in the first goal, like Craig says, but that layoff by Mitro was sublime. In the 5th minute, let's give him credit there. Second goal, Mitrovic maybe should have done better. Maybe Fabio was fair to call him out there. But again, Mitrovic, the way he cut in from the defender to give himself a chance to score on goal. And yes, I think he should have buried that, but clearly. We were attacking in numbers, so clearly there's going to be a loose ball. We've got numbers there. It's not like Scott Parker where you can count on one person if you're lucky in the whole penalty area, let alone 3 or 4 players. And then the third goal, it was a good link-up play between Bobby Decordova-Reid, I think it was, with Harry Wilson. I thought Wilson done well to get the ball back in. He put himself in there. Again, I think a short man against a big defender. I thought he actually done well to get the ball and laid into Mitrovic. And that's probably where he got maybe some injury there, or maybe a slight collision there. But give Wilson some credit, because he actually got himself stuck in for the cause, 2-0 up. We're not in any form of trouble, but he got himself stuck in there, laid the ball onto Mitrovic, who did what he does best, and just taps in from a few yards out. But overall, Mitrovic was involved in all 3 goals. To be honest, I'm thinking, this is a player that, he's obviously grateful for being given the extension, but he loves his club. And now we're playing to his strengths. It's Scott Parker. Let's not talk about him. To be honest, they drew 0-0 away against Hull City, predictably. So look, we move on. And if we get Mitrovic to play the way, the fact is even Mitrovic 3-0 up, and you're still trying to defend a 3-0 lead and trying to protect that clean sheet. Again, I don't know if you saw that, Craig. In the second half, Mitrovic was constantly coming back to defend when you're 3-0 up and having no reason to do so. So clearly, it's very important to protect that 3-goal lead and get the clean sheet. So Mitrovic, great game all round. But yeah, I think Wilson deserves some credit there for really getting stuck in and laying the ball over to him.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention Harry Wilson hit the post too. Yeah. So there could have been another goal.
Should have scored.
Should have scored. And Max, I'm going to give you the honors, because at the very end of the match, great pass to set up the situation with Neeskens Cabano. I believe it was Onoma. I could be wrong. I think it was Josh Onoma, right? Set up. Neeskens Cabano gets taken down. Mitro comes up, and they save. It's a save, Max. What was going through your mind at the end of the match? And then all your overall analysis, but the ending was, it took a little bit off of the victory, just a slight bit. Your thoughts about what happened at the very end?
Yeah, I had a weird feeling he'd actually miss, just because I felt it was a very casual sort of vibe to it. We were up 3-0, and I thought, and he put it at a very poor height. It was a perfect height for the keeper. Wasn't really in the corner. Very lackadaisical. When was the last time Mitro took a penalty? Was it the Sheffield United miss? I think it might have been.
I think.
Wow! I didn't even think about it. So that goes back a bit. Yeah,
I think he needs to be off penalty duties. Although that won't be an easy conversation. I wouldn't want to have it with him. But to be fair, Onoma. Let's talk about Onoma. He was excellent in terms of unlocking those through balls. He played Harry Wilson through when he hit the post, and also put Cabano through. I love seeing Cabano race onto that on as a sub. Wants to prove a point. Really impressive effort there. It was a shame we missed, but again. The expected goals tally, I seen this all over Twitter.
I saw that.
It was the highest we've ever been since they started recording them, 5 or 6 seasons ago. Yeah. It's something like 4.3. And I'm not a big expected goals person, because I care about goals in the back of the net. But it does have to be said that we are creating a lot more high quality chances than in past years, and that's impressive.
Okay, excellent. Craig, over to you, just your analysis of the second half. And while we're talking about this, and I'm just going to ask you anyways. You're back at Craven Cottage. What did you make of the atmosphere? And I haven't had a chance to ask you your thoughts on the new stand coming together. What are your thoughts about that?
The new stand looks brilliant. It's huge. It's enormous. The one downside is when I was walking down Gresswell Street, used to be you'd only see the facade of the Johnny Haynes stand. Instead, now you see behind the facade this enormous structure. And I'll admit, there was a little bit of disappointment because we're no longer the little club that could. We've got this big hulking stand behind it, so it did take away some of the intimacy of walking down Finley Street or walking down Gresswell Street to the Cottage. But overall, it looks great. It'll be a fantastic. I think it'll be a fantastic community amenity, and I can't wait to go in and check it out myself. As for the atmosphere, again, I wasn't sitting normally I would be in the Hammersmith end, and the last few seasons I've been way up. So I've been in row QQ, so where we effectively stand and you get a lot of noise. Being in the Putney end, the noise I heard were mostly from Stoke supporters who at first were fairly vocal, and then they kind of quieted down once they went behind 1-0 with a little bit of banter, a little bit of abuse, which is always enjoyable in that environment. But it was a slightly tepid atmosphere, at least at the Putney end. But maybe that's just the way I roll.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Amelia? What are your thoughts about the atmosphere? And and feel free to share your thoughts on your analysis of the second half. But what did you make of it? And thoughts on what Craig just shared about the new stand, and again, I'm glad that there's a new stand, but that was interesting from Craig.
Yeah, two of the things that sort of I've lost now because of the new stand is obviously where I sit in the Johnny Haynes stand facing the river. I've lost my view on the right-hand side of the River Thames, so that sometimes you get nice sunsets and some nice skies around there. And also when the sun is quite low in the wintertime, the sun hangs out above the Stevenage Road, the Riverside stand and blocks my eyesight. So those are two sort of the observations for the last 40 years I'm going to miss now because of the new stand. But overall, it will be impressive once it's full. I thought sitting close to the Hammersmith end fans, just everyone's very buoyant, very positive, very arrogant. There's a sense of arrogance in the crowd. They're at the top of the league. What have we got to complain about? Let's enjoy while we can. Hopefully we'll stay there for the rest of the season. But if we're not, then let's make the most of it. Enjoy the moment, because we've not had a lot to shout about in the last season or so. So it's nice to win games and win dominantly. I was saying to the guys, when's the last time we won by 3-goal margin under Scott Parker? There's a question for all of you now.
Oh, I don't know. Are we going all the way back to the Millwall match?
That's probably would have been the Millwall game, but again,
or the Reading away.
Or the Reading away.
How
That's
often
right.
did we see that?
Yeah, very rare.
Yeah,
and it feels like it's like the 3-0. We're kind of like, we've won for 3-0. Like we're not even like that delighted. The atmosphere of the show
it wasn't 5 or 6.
We're disappointed that it's 3-0.
Yeah.
It's so odd.
How crazy is that? We're disappointed that it's 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Again, so going back to the point around the fans being very positive, arrogant, confident, all those positive adjectives, to be honest. We have every right to be positive, and let's enjoy the moment, because we don't
exactly, Amelia.
I agree with Craig, though. We are starting to play like a team of arrogant. There's an era of arrogance that we had under John Tigana 20 years ago. And
that's amazing that we're making that comparison.
Yeah, exactly. So let's enjoy it while we can. We have a right to be satisfied as well. We don't always have good moments. Exactly, Robin. Let's milk it. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about Tigana's, the Tigana season, it was before Max was even born.
No. I was alive, but I was not. My memory was not kicking in then.
Okay, guys. Good stuff. One other note I want to mention, and I'm glad this person mentioned this. I've not mentioned the return of Harrison Reed. I think this is huge. Craig, I want to get your thoughts about Harrison Reed returning. And I'm just going to read this. Was just so glad to see Harrison Reed come back and slot in like a jigsaw piece. Totally agree with that. Your thoughts on his return?
When did he come back? He came. I mean, he came in for Carvalho, right? He was the second sub. Look, by then the game was 3-0, so it's hard to judge his performance.
Right.
I've always thought he's quite a quality player, very good technically, and it is good to see him back after a period of injuries. Hard to really judge on the basis of this performance because I think we were effectively running out the game, and he came in. Yeah. I don't know, 10 minutes before the end or so.
I think the bigger point is that he's now part of the mix.
No, look, and we're going to need that depth because we're going to have more injuries over the course of the season. I mean, we talk about these players as if they're going to be available all season, but Kenny, we've already seen with Tete that he's a hamstring injury, at least out 6 weeks, maybe longer.
Yep.
And we are, and some of these other players have been injured in the past, so we are going to need to have that depth in the team. So it is important that people like Harrison Reed are healthy again. He was a crucial part of our promotion season.
Right.
The question is, where do you put him? That's just
the question is where you put him. But if Onoma's had injury problems. Seri has been there and not there. He's been, I think, inconsistent. I wouldn't worry too much about finding a space for Harrison Reed over the course of the season. He may not be a consistent starter.
It's a good problem to have, Emilio.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice dilemma because, again, at the moment,
Exactly.
Like I said, we haven't talked about Tom Kearney tonight, but clearly
you read my mind. I was just going to bring this up, and
we need
Max,
players to be fit. We need all our players to be fit.
Well, he's got engaged, so congrats to him on a personal level.
Okay, well, congratulations. And again, listen, I'm a Tom Kearney fan, and I would like to see him play for Fulham again. I really would, Max, but Fulham I can say that they can play without him now, where I think in seasons past they've really missed Kearney. I think that they could use him, but I think the way that the team is structured, it's a real team. I think they could deal without having him back, but it would be nice to have Tom Kearney back. I think you would agree with me on that.
Yeah, he can actually take a decent penalty. So maybe we sub him on for pens at the end of the match.
Okay, good stuff, guys. All right, let's finish up with man of the match. And if you're watching live, and I do want to mention this because there was a Goldman to begin the show. I actually screwed up the live feed on the Cottage Talk Twitter page. It didn't start until 10 minutes in. Yes, that's on me. That is a classic Goldman. So sorry to everyone that kind of came in 10 minutes in. That's on me. But I'll go to you, Craig. Who's your man of the match?
I'm going to say Decker-Dover-Reed because I do think the work along that left side is where we got all three of our goals, and he was really a key part of stretching the defense, the Stoke defense, and forcing them out of position and creating those opportunities. Okay,
Bobby Decker-Dover-Reed for Craig. Max, how about you?
I'm going to go Harry Wilson. I thought he was excellent, got the scoring started, and I love the effort just to lay his body on the line for Mitro's goal. And that hurt, hitting the post at full speed. He's been a lot more of a team player than I thought he would be when we signed him. And he looks like he'll be a really great Fulham favorite for years to come.
Okay. Before I go to you, Millie, I'm just going to share some man of the match from the Fulham supporters. And it's all over the place. So I'm just going to read from our friend Roger in spite of his pen miss. My vote for Mitro. Here's another one. Mitro for man of the match. Let's see. Here's another one from Darkwing 009. Honestly, they were all good, but Ream commands that defense, wins every header, and distributes the ball forward. Robin Pendrell says Ream. So we actually have a decent amount of saying Ream, Mitro, and let's see, Chris Goodwin, man of the match, Harry Wilson, ex-Liverpool player. So over to you, Emilio. Your thoughts. Who was your man of the match?
I'm going to give it to Mitro, but let's look before I talk about Mitrovic. Onuma, I'm not his biggest fan, but I thought he was outstanding.
Great.
He was outstanding. Second half in particular, he was dominant. And basically, Marco Silva's getting the best out of him. Playing week in, week out. He's looking hungry. He's looking fit, energetic, likes to go forward, and also playing his part defensively as well. So I'm going to call Josh Onuma around. So I thought he was
agrees with you.
Second player of the match. I thought Wilson done well. I don't think he does enough defensively for me. So if you want to look at the balance of play involved in the goals, but then I look at Mitrovic involved in all 3 goals, his work rate defensively, as I called out earlier, was second to none. 2-0 up, 3-0 up. Mitrovic still trying to go in defensive to protect his defense and trying to keep that clean sheet. I didn't see Wilson do enough of that defensively. Sometimes a bit too casual for me at times defensively. And that's been a criticism from Liverpool fans that he's good going forward, will get a lot of goals, but will he go back and work hard defensively? That's just a slight concern from my part. But for me, Mitrovic, first goal, sublime touch to Wilson. Second goal, should have done better, but the way he cut in and had the confidence to do that, great. Tapped to the third goal, and the fact he had the confidence to take the penalty, even though he's got a poor record at penalties. I know maybe we're 3-0 up, and maybe that's the reason why, but clearly we need to address that. That's a concern we need to address. Who's going to be our resident penalty taker this season? But the fact that he still had the confidence to pick that ball up and take it, that shows Mitrovic is getting back to the best that we want to see him in this division. So great. Thanks for signing the contract extension, and more of that week in, week out, please. But for me, Mitrovic was my man of the match.
Okay. Back over to you, Craig. Dennis here. Now, I'm glad that Steve Reynolds has mentioned Dennis because someone had to play right back, and he stepped up. And I don't think Fulham really missed a beat too much with Dennis. Hardly started last season, but kept fit and showed he is 100% Fulham underrated. I'm glad that Steve mentioned this because he's a pro, and he loves Fulham, or he would have left by now. Your thoughts about Dennis Adoy, whatever you want to call him. Your thoughts.
Or Steve, I see Steve Reynolds is spelled with Dennis Odio in Spanish. Look, I think what was the one moment that really struck home for me was when I think it was Smith for Stoke crossed the ball in for, I think it was Surridge.
Yeah.
A very tall center forward for Stoke City. And Odoa outleaped him and managed to clear the ball.
Yep.
Even though he is much, much shorter. And it just shows the incredible athleticism as well as skill that he has. And who can forget the goal he scored in the second leg of the playoff game versus Derby County at Craven Cottage in 2018. I sure won't. And I'm sure none of you will either.
Yeah.
So, he had an excellent game. He is fantastic on the ball. He is very versatile. And really, he defends actually quite well. There were a couple of moments, I would say a couple of the half chances from Stoke City did come from that side.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say they were particularly good chances. One shot went right between Odoa's legs, but was fairly easily saved by Gazzaniga. But, I do think overall it was good to see him back. We probably do need, if Tete remains injured for a lengthy period.
We need another right back.
I do think we're going to need to buy a right back.
I totally agree. Totally agree there.
Or borrow one.
That's a very good point. Okay. Great show, guys. I've really enjoyed this. I do want to mention that, and Emilio, you'll be a part of this, and Max has indicated he'll be a part of this as well. And Craig, I don't know if you're around, you can be a part of this as well. Thursday, 8 p.m. UK time, our 10-year anniversary show. Oh. I'm gonna have a bunch of co-hosts join us. I'm not sure how we're going to do this, how many can be on at one time. I'm gonna try to figure this out over the next couple of days. But I'm bringing back some familiar voices and one who cannot wait to get on the show. All I'm going to say to anyone that has watched or listened to Cottage Talk over the years, he makes fun of me for saying Norwich. And that should just be it. Anyone that knows when I used to say that, it's Norwich. He would just make all kinds of comments about that. He'll be joining us. If you don't know who it is, you're going to find out on Thursday. Anyways, great show, guys. But we do need to wrap this up. For Craig Coben, Emilio Danello, and Max Cohen, I'm Russ Cohen. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.